deal killers and how innocent little things can crater a real estate transaction. So, Tracy, we just had a new purchase agreement that came out for the New Mexico area, meaning this is the purchase contract, the purchase agreement that most realtors in the state use, the 7,000. Well, basically all the realtors, about 7,000 total in the state. There's a lot of big changes in this agreement, and there's some things in there that can really bite somebody if they're not paying attention. Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 575. You wouldn't believe how hard it's been to get to this point, Tracy. I mean, putting together our episode today. But anyway, we're here, 575 episodes into it, beginning of April 2026.
And today it's deal killers and danger zones.
Deal killers and danger zones. But we've got some interesting things. You've got some homes of the week.
You don't think deal killers and danger zones is interesting?
It's very interesting, especially to me, but it's not fun.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm going to talk about 2 homes of the week.
Okay.
And we're going to talk a little bit about April Fool's Day and spring
Was
fever.
April Fool's Day recent?
Yeah. Yeah. Remember you were asking me if Buc-ee's was for real coming to Albuquerque? And I said, Tigo, it says it's going to be on I-10 in Albuquerque.
I'm not, just so people know, I'm not that stupid, but I thought it was a good social media post. Buc-ee's coming to Albuquerque on I-10. I thought, yeah, that was creative. That was good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Since I-10 is in southern New Mexico.
Exactly.
Yeah. Not Albuquerque.
Not Albuquerque. So it's spring also. I mean,
It is.
really, spring has sprung. And
so let's jump into that.
Okay.
So I saw a story on April Fool's Day, so I'm sure it's true, but they were talking about, is spring fever for real? And I thought to myself, well, of course spring fever is for real, especially in real estate, right? We see longer daylight. We know by the end of April, it's going to be light till 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Think of that extra daylight hours where you can go out and work on the yard, Tigo. I mean, come on. All that extra energy you get from spring fever.
Dropping that hint pretty hard there, Tracy.
Yeah. Well, last weekend you were out there complaining about all the sprinklers and the drip, the bane of your existence.
Yeah.
But, people do seem to get that extra energy, about spring cleaning and things. And in real estate, this is the time of year where we really see the energy pick up and people thinking about buying and selling homes. So
yeah, we generally see in the data a lot of homes coming on the market this time of year. This is when we have the big surge as people, coming out of school and stuff. I know we're still in school now, but people getting prepared for that, as well as people thinking, okay, maybe it's time to make a move.
Right. Well, and a lot of schools had spring break already, and so they're on that home stretch. People are starting to think about graduation, summer vacations, and moving once school is out. So that's that. Let's talk about Test Court in Rio Rancho.
Okay,
Tigo.
homes of the week.
So let's talk about 3118 Test Court in Rio Rancho.
Okay, I got it pulled up here.
Okay. It was built by Pulte Homes. It's a resale. It was built in 2021, so fairly new. And it's a beautiful 2-story, 3,600 square foot.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah, 3,598. Well,
Yeah.
I guess that's 3,600 square feet.
Yeah, big house. It is one of the favorite all-time floor plans for Pulte Homes, much loved. It has a full bedroom and full bathroom on the main floor. Primary is up, but it also has a nook off the dining, not the formal dining area, but the breakfast area. So it's got like an office nook just off the kitchen and dining. So you have a main floor space. The other thing I love about this floor plan is it could easily be a 5-bedroom, but that 5th space upstairs is a very large recreation room. It could be part bedroom and part recreation room. It's so big. This is in the Broadmoor Heights area, which is just north of Northern off Broadmoor, just south of Paseo del Vulcan and Cleveland High School. So if you're interested in that one, give us a ring. We'd be happy to schedule a time for you to view it.
Looks like a great house. Big house. Looks like it's in great condition. Move-in ready. If you need that big home for lots of people, it's a good choice for people.
When I look at the photos, Tigo, some of the things that I notice are things that just because I've seen this floor plan, I can see the upgrades. That railing going up the stairs, it's gorgeous when you're in the home and you see that staircase with the landing halfway up and the iron
it has
railing.
An upper deck. Look at that. Yeah, I just pulled that up.
With a view.
Yeah.
Observation deck on the roof. So,
okay. Yeah.
great house.
Okay. Another one.
609 for that house.
Yep.
Another one right here in kitty corner from Intel. So it's literally Albuquerque, but kitty corner from Intel in Paradise East.
So it's kind of the Cottonwood Corners area. Just it's Albuquerque, but it's just south of Rio Rancho, just south
Yeah.
of West Side. Yeah.
So it's technically in 7 Bar North, which a lot of people know 7 Bar North. This is a house that has a unique feature. It has a studio out back, so it could be a home office, it could be yoga, workout, it could be a media room.
Hold it up so you can see.
Yeah, so the photo, if you're online right now, that's the studio. It does have heat and cooling,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a window unit, I think, maybe.
Yep.
But it's a very nice space. The house is 3 bedrooms, all upstairs. It was built by Tiara Homes. It's $395,900 and just had the exterior all refreshed. The inside was remodeled about 5 years ago. And so it's ready to go, move in ready. Oh, I just saw the stainless appliances.
Yeah,
Beautiful,
exactly. So yeah,
beautiful.
a couple homes and if you're in the market looking, there's a lot of homes coming on right now. There's a lot of good choices. We've seen prices kind of stagnant, since last year. So there's opportunity for buyers out there. And, if you're waiting for the home prices to crash or something, you're probably wasting your time. So let's jump over to just a couple of market stats here, Tracy. I want to pull up, and we're early in April 2026.
Very
okay?
early.
Very early. And there's a few data points that we can look at already just to get a feel for where the market is. One of them here is median sale price, and I just pulled it up on the screen. For single-family detached home, the April number is at $365,000. So that's the middle price of all the homes that sold. I like that one better than average just for tracking stats, which is down 2.7% from a year ago. And I caution people because that's going to be the headline number is prices dropped 2%, prices dropped 3% from last year. And it's a 1 month snapshot in time. If you even it out over 3 months, it's about flat. The thing is there's nothing in our market that indicates, prices are going to drop substantially. It's just flat. And I posted a comment the other day, and it's like, this is what a balanced market looks like.
Right.
It's just balanced. There's not a huge surge in supply. There's not a huge surge in demand. We're just kind of steady. And I mean, if you look at the price per square foot, it's pretty much equal with last year. So it's $214 a square foot for this April versus last April was $213. So basically the same. I think that's interesting, Tracy, is look at this. It's kind of an obscure number here, but $400,000 to $600,000 price range, kind of the mid tier, upper mid tier. I don't know what you call that. 215 versus 208. So that one actually saw an increase of about 3.5% versus the what we consider luxury, the 600,000 and above. It dropped about 1.5% per square foot. Again, this is only 1 month snapshot in time, so take it for what it's worth. But prices are pretty much steady,
Right.
and so we'll kind of see how this shakes out as we go through the rest of the next few weeks here as I get more data in. Sales look like they're going to be slightly more than last year. Number of new listings actually might be down from last year. Pending sales look like they're going to be up from last year. So there's a lot of mixed signals in the market right now. So we'll be watching closely and see where it goes.
So if you're thinking of selling your house this spring, what we do is we go through what the market is suggesting your value of your home is, and we look at relevant sales in your area to determine what the market will bear, right?
Yeah.
And so each neighborhood is so different, every price point is so different that we really need to dig in for your specific property
Yeah.
when it comes time to looking at value.
Okay, here it is. Deal killers and how innocent little things can crater a real estate transaction. So, Tracy, we just had a new purchase agreement that came out for the New Mexico area, meaning this is the purchase contract, the purchase agreement that most realtors in the state use, the 7,000. Well, basically all the realtors, about 7,000 total in the state. There are some people that aren't realtors that are licensed, but even them, in most cases on the residential side, use this same agreement. We talked about it last week. There's a lot of big changes in this agreement, and there's some things in there that can really bite somebody if they're not paying attention and making sure they're doing things they're supposed to do, because there's so many deadlines and commitments that both buyers and sellers have made in this purchase agreement that if they miss one of those things, it can really hurt the process.
So that's sort of an innocent mistake,
Yeah,
right? The innocent
could be,
mistake
could
could
be or
be.
non-innocent too. I mean, look, sorry to interrupt you, but they're in there to protect from people doing things that aren't necessarily innocent mistakes, but you can make an innocent mistake and blow up your deal.
So let's talk about the first one.
Okay.
Independent consideration. For those that listened last week, we went in depth about independent consideration, that some sort of money from the buyer to the seller that is non-refundable is mandatory now.
Correct.
And that's the independent consideration that you like to call option money.
Yeah, option money. It's called option money in Texas. It's the same concept. The buyer is paying the seller to take the home off the market and have them do their due diligence during that due diligence period.
Yeah, for sure. And so the contract says what about that independent consideration? That's sort of an perhaps deal killer that we didn't have in the contract before.
Yeah, this is new to this 2026 contract. And if you're not like in the middle of a real estate transaction, you're like going, why are we talking about this? I don't care about this. Well, the thing is it's interesting because you probably know somebody that's thinking about buying or selling, and you'll be in the know. You'll be in the know on how these deals work. Sorry, Sam, you keep switching the cameras on me, man. I'm like, what camera? Okay, on that camera.
Yeah, you need to move to middle.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting to know, to understand these things are important. So the first thing, independent consideration or option money, it's this money, but in the contract we have 3 days for the buyer to deliver that money to the seller and the seller to acknowledge receipt. And
if they don't get it in 3 days and acknowledge it,
termination.
it's not even a deal.
The deal doesn't exist any
It doesn't
longer.
exist. So you're
Yeah.
out of contract, and they could move on to a different buyer if they wanted.
Yeah, they can move on to a different
Without
buyer
a
if the
termination form.
Correct. Yeah, so there's a lot of obligation between the buyer and the seller to make sure that gets documented within those 3 days.
Yeah.
And it can be a small amount. It doesn't have to be a large dollar amount. It could be a large dollar amount. Again, we went into that a little bit more last week. We won't go down that road, but it can be anything, but it just has to be something of value between the buyer and the seller.
It's funny when you say something of value. Can I say it's a Kit Kat bar or something like that? Has to be money. You
It's-
say something of value like it's not money.
Well, that's an interesting question.
Yeah, well, it won't go there. Okay, let's move on. Too much information trap, the inspection default.
Yeah, so this is something that can hurt a buyer and a seller. We'll talk about it from a buyer side first off. Is okay, let's say, Tracy, you're a buyer, you've done your home inspection, you get your 45-page inspection report, and you're looking through it, and it's like, look at all this stuff. This home is a mess. I don't want to buy I want a $20,000 credit. And so you as a buyer just send that over to the listing broker, or the buyer broker sends it over to the listing broker or the seller, right? You've just committed a breach of contract.
Because you're not supposed to send that report
Correct.
unless the seller specifically requests the whole report.
Correct. And so for a buyer, if the deal proceeds to closing, okay, no harm, no foul. You sent the whole thing, right? You weren't supposed to. Still a breach of contract. But the penalty is if you send that as a buyer or buyer broker and the deal terminates, you could lose your earnest money.
Yep. I was talking to a realtor in Santa Fe yesterday who was going on and on and on about this and saying, this is just so hard to navigate because the whole rule around repairs changed a few years ago where we can't give the seller information about the condition of the home unless we're asking for a repair or unless in writing the seller asks for the information.
Correct.
So there you go.
Okay, and so the why is the next question. So why does the seller not want that report? And this is a thing that could be a problem for a seller, is once you receive that report as a seller, you have to note everything on there. Any material fact that's on there now has to be disclosed.
So if the
And
deal falls through and another buyer comes along,
yeah,
you have to disclose everything now that you didn't know before. You didn't know that the shower dripped before or whatever.
right, right. It could be really minor things. And now people are going to say, well, why? Why shouldn't the buyer have to do that? Well, or I mean, the seller have to do that. Well, that's
Yeah,
a debate to be had. The point is, don't share the whole report unless the seller asks for it, and seller don't ask for it unless you know the consequences of asking for that full report.
right. Okay. The silent rejection trap, Tigo, with regard to the financing contingency.
Yeah, so there is a in our contract or agreement, purchase agreement, there is a default thing that says if the loan gets denied up to 3 days before the signing date, the closing date, the seller can get a letter from their lender that says,
The
"Hey,"
buyer can.
excuse me, thank you. The buyer can get a letter and say, "Hey, this loan isn't going to go through." Now, it doesn't happen very often. It's very rare, but once in a while something happens. The buyer gets fired. The buyer, goes and buys a vehicle or whatever, blows up their credit for some reason. Suddenly they no longer qualify. Something happens, or maybe in the initial underwriting they missed something. Well, so okay, the
So
buyer has to deliver a letter, right?
that says their loan was denied prior to 3 days from closing, or their
Or
earnest money
their earnest money.
is forfeited if they terminate without 3 days notice.
Correct.
Which to me, if you've had somebody's house off the market for 30 days already and then your loan gets denied, surely the earnest money should go to the seller,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
It's, they've been packing, probably their house is not in that great showing condition anymore. They lost a month of mortgage, they're going to go back on market. So,
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and I think it's true, and I think it's one of those things that's, one of the thousands of little things that we're tracking throughout the transaction is, making sure what's the loan process, is everything going all right? Did the appraisal come in okay? Did the underwriter, have any red flags? All these little things to make sure that we're comfortable that the loan is proceeding without any hiccups.
right.
That's
So
why we like local lenders, people we can actually talk to.
I'm working right now on a closing that's supposed to have happened yesterday, and it's not a local lender, and they're still in final
And
underwriting.
how's your communication?
It's not as quick as it should be.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Other danger zones.
Yeah, I mean, certain things like both. So let's talk about the buyer. The buyer has a bunch of different options to review things. They can review documents. So let's say it's a homeowners association. They could review permits, let's say, for example. They could review
Survey.
a survey. And then, of course, all the inspection reports. They can review the title documents, the title binder, make sure there's no exceptions on title insurance to make sure they get covered. The buyer has an obligation to hit those deadlines, and if they have an objection to anything they come up with, they gotta do it before that deadline. Because the consequence, as you know, Tracy, the consequence is the buyer waives the right to objection if they miss those deadlines.
Right. And the clock ticks pretty quickly as a buyer, right? Tigo, where they're doing their loan paperwork, they're trying to plan their move, and all of these emails keep coming, and they really need to open them and look at them.
Don't ignore the emails. You're going to be
Yeah.
getting emails from the broker. You're going to be getting emails from the transaction coordinator, maybe.
And the
You're going to
lender,
be getting emails from the lender, the title
Title.
company. All of those things matter, and you can't ignore them. And I know there's a lot going on, and we get that. We understand that. But, it's important that you don't just go hide while this is going on, because you could waive some of your rights and not even know it.
yeah.
So, Tracy, I want to talk about one thing that's, again, it's one of these obscure things. It's a government rule. It's the FERPTA thing, and it has to do with the seller documenting that they're not a foreign person. Okay.
Right.
And in our agreement, the seller must document that prior to closing. Okay. In the new purchase agreement, the seller has to do it 5 days before the signing date
With the title company.
with the title company to document that they're not a foreign person. And if they miss that deadline, it can be a problem. So again, there's all these little things that if you miss can, throw
It's,
the whole thing into a tailspin.
and that's if they really are a foreign person. That's when it's a problem because
Well, if
there's
they
more
really,
steps that need
yeah,
to
yeah,
have
yeah.
the title needs to
Money,
do.
money gets set aside. It's this whole thing. But that's the problem. Okay, so you're not a foreign person, and you don't get the title company all that information that they need to prove that you're not a foreign person. The title company is now required to pull all this money aside and set it aside to pay for taxes if you haven't documented that. So
Right.
that's the consequence of it.
Yep. Lots of different things, Tigo. Lots of
Yeah.
new nuances in our purchase contract and purchase agreement.
Yep.
And it's whatever, 24 pages or something. So
Yeah.
make sure you have a trusted real estate advisor on your side.
Well, it really is. I see all these funny like TikToks and Instagram and Reels and stuff, little videos of people making fun of what we do, and all we do is, talk back and forth. And what's the price? And oh, how's that? Okay, yeah, that'll work. Great. Okay, thanks. Pay me money. It's like, okay, that's fine. I think that there's that one that went viral not too long ago, kind of making fun of what we do, and then we don't do anything. And it was like I saw a realtor kind of influencer guy that talks about our industry. He's not a realtor, and he said, yeah, they should hire that woman that did that video, that little short, and say, follow a realtor around, do a couple deals with them, and then redo that video and see exactly what it takes to get these deals to closing. Because the easy part is negotiating the price.
So, Tigo, I hear you have some obscure real estate facts we're going to talk about. I know you've got your coffee. It's kind of like morning coffee with Tigo.
Yeah, no. There's just some interesting stats that I have access to now that I wanted to go over. And the first one, Tracy, is the number of homes that sold that have some sort of concession.
So, like a credit towards something.
Yeah, a credit from the seller to the buyer, basically,
Okay.
is what it could be closing costs. It could be something
So
else. Yeah.
tell us the number.
So it's 36%, which is high. I mean, if we
Wow.
go back to 2022, for example, it was like 15%, right? So it's more than double what it used to be. Of course, we can't compare anything to 2020 and 2021, but still that's relatively high in the last few years. We have seen more concession in the last few years. Another interesting one, Tracy, is how many homes sold above list price? Because we talk about, discount from list price. We talk about that a lot, and I've got that here in a second. But how many homes do you think in March 2026 closed above the actual list price?
Can I guess?
Yes.
Okay, so when I think about it, my first thought was probably 1 in 10, but it might be just above that. More than 10%, I would say.
That is really good. 15.7%.
I almost said 15%.
You're not cheating. You're not looking at the
No,
screen, are
I'm
you?
not,
No.
but
Okay.
I can.
Well,
Yeah.
what's so what's crazy about that, if you go back again, we go back to 2022, there was a point that almost 60% of all the homes closed in a month were above list price, right?
Right.
And right now it's, like I said, 15 and a half, almost 16%. The thing that's interesting about that is actually higher than it was back in like 2018, 2019, where it was only, 8 to 10%. We're at 16%. So it's that whole disconnect between the really great homes, because we do still have limited supply, that still getting multiple offers on great homes in great areas, right? So it's interesting.
And we have seen that within our team
Mhm.
where some of our houses have had multiple offers and they're going above list price. I
Yeah.
think that's where I was pulling my data from.
Yeah. This is one that comes up once in a while and numbers get thrown around, and I don't know where they come up with them, is the number of homes that were cash sales. There was a stat that was being thrown around one time that was 30% or 40% were all cash sales. Never, ever, ever has happened in the Albuquerque market. The highest it ever was right at 20%, and that was actually during the housing boom
During
of 2022.
the pandemic kind of
Yeah.
post.
Yeah, because what was happening, it was so competitive. People were paying with cash to be competitive because they were trying to compete with other people. And then they would just turn around and refinance it at that 3.5% interest rate that you could get.
Right.
So there were a lot of cash sales in. You would have thought when interest rates peaked up back in 23 that we would have seen a lot of cash sales, and we did for a little bit. But anyway, okay. How many do you think in March 2026
Had a
percent
of cash
were
sales?
cash sales?
18%.
12%.
Okay, I knew I was high.
No, you were a little high. But I mean, that's actually in line with kind of like the overall average. It's somewhere, I mean, this is actually this 12% on the low end. So yeah, I mean, there's still cash buyers out there, but it's not like this flood like we saw during the pandemic boom when people were paying cash, even though they didn't really want to.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay, the one I'm wondering about is how many were below list price.
Yeah.
So
Below list
that's
price.
going to be a big number.
Well, and I don't actually have that stat, but what I do have is
The percent.
the discount on average off of list price.
I think we're at 97%.
Yeah, it's actually
About 3% discount.
3.5% discount.
3.5?
Yeah, yeah, and that's where we're at right now, which is actually pretty normal.
Right.
That's not unusual at all. But like I said, there's some above, some below. You know, average is average is average. All right, got one more for you.
Okay.
Fallout rate. So these are homes that were under contract, meaning they were in pending status, and now they came back on the market. It's a percentage of homes that came back on the market to the overall inventory in our market.
I'm going to say 18%.
It's 18%.
It
is.
I was thinking that was low.
No. Yeah.
18%, huh?
Yeah.
'Cause
And
there
I
was
said,
a
I said,
time
I
there-
said, let me make sure I clarify something. I said it wrong. It's 18% of the homes that are in pending status came back on market.
Fall out of a contract.
Yep.
I was thinking it was higher. I know I saw a stat at some point that it was closer to 30%. So I was.
Over the years, there's just been this kind of urban legend stat that, 30% of the homes fall through. Well, it's actually not true. It's closer to 20%. It's actually below 20%, but that's still, that's still whatever, 2 in 10 are falling out.
Right. It's
Right.
hard because sellers they're getting ready to move and buyers are getting ready to move. And so when it falls through, it's a bummer for both sides.
Yeah. And that's why, again, I go back to what we were talking about earlier. There's so many little things. The easy part is getting under contract, to be honest with you,
Right.
in a real estate sale. It's the everything that happens from when you get under contract and get it over the finish line at the closing table that takes a lot. There's a lot of work involved there.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah. Okay. That was it. That was my obscure stats of the week. And let's wrap it up. Are we ready to wrap it up?
Sure.
Anything else? Okay.
Sure. Don't forget to subscribe, share, follow, like, let us know what you want us to talk about. If you have questions or concerns, we'd be happy to talk about them. And follow us every week. We're here on Thursdays.
All right. Take care. If you want to reach us, we're at 505-448-8888.